First of all, thank you all for being here. With this audience, this is obviously a topic that is near and dear to a lot of people. Just have a show of hands, how many people here, like in the last 30 days, have gotten like a funky or a phishing or a fraud, something you would think would be a fraudulent like email? Yeah, right? Everybody, right?
I get them too.
Yep. How many people here know someone who's had their email hacked? Yeah, everybody, right? How many people here know someone who's actually been the victim of a scam, lost money in an online? Yeah. So it's something that's just unbelievably prevalent. We get, even at Heartwood, we get inundated with these things all the time. And so it's great that you're here to learn some of the things that these guys on the front lines are doing to help prevent these types of situations. A little bit of housekeeping. Cedric's going to have a presentation he's going to go through. We'll keep it really informal, though. If you have questions as we're going along, just raise your hand. And then at the end, after he's finished, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of Q&A. And he'll probably even stick around afterwards if you want to grab him like just for one-on-one to talk about anything. So we're very fortunate to have Cedric Jefferson here with us. He's been an FBI agent since He's been in the FBI since 2009. Became a special agent in 2015, and because he's got a lot of financial backgrounds, it's actually a CPA. He got right into the the financial crimes type of situation, and has been working on fraud, cybersecurity, financial crimes, specializing in the healthcare sector right now, right? But has good general knowledge of it, and since 2019 has been here in Richmond working on this stuff. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Cedric, and thanks again for being here.
Yes, thank you. This is on, right? I'm good. I should have checked. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. I appreciate you coming out today. I did not think I would get this many people to come hear me talk, but that's all right. Hopefully I can meet your expectations. But today's topic will be fraud awareness. And if I had to add a word to it, it would be cyber fraud awareness. When we think about fraud today, a lot of it is done on the internet. We live our lives on the internet. Everything is, most crimes are cyber enabled. And when we go throughout this presentation today, I want you to always think about when I mention cyber fraud or use the word cyber threat, I am referring to internet crime. And everyone at some point has been a victim of internet crime or knows someone who's been a victim of internet crime. And if you don't fit in those two categories, it's bound to happen. So hopefully by the end of this presentation, I'll be able to help you not fall into that third category and not fall prey or be victims of these many schemes that we're seeing today. And this can be a very informative, proactive way to stop these crimes from happening. So let's just dig into it. As this is very informal, speak to me. As you can see before the presentation, I enjoy talking and I enjoy dialoguing. So just communicate with me. Stop, ask questions. It works a lot better if we just talk. So you can hold your question to the end, or we can just talk along the way. Either way works for me. So just to give you a roadmap, what we're going to look at today, I'm going to give you an overview of our IC3, which is our Internet Complaint Center. We're going to talk about some stats. In today's data-driven world, we can't go anywhere without stats. So we're going to talk to you about the data and the stats that we're seeing. We're going to talk about fraud examples, give you a few examples that we've seen over the last few months. Show you some red flags, what to look for when you see these different type of fraud schemes being acted out. We'll go over some fraud prevention tips. I'll talk to you how to report fraud, and Q&A. So yes, Q&A is at the end, but remember, Q&A is all throughout. Raise your hand, throw something at me, anything to get my attention, and I'll answer your question. So before we talk about the Internet Complaint Center, I just want to kind of set the stage a little bit of what we're doing here. So today's cyber landscape is threatened by a multitude of malicious actors. These actors have the tools to carry out large-scale fraud schemes. They have the ability to hold our data and money for ransom. And they also have the ability to impact our national security, which is a major issue for us. These profit-driven cyber criminals have the ability to paralyze entire school systems, police departments, hospitals, financial institutions, and other private sector entities. So the FBI is continually addressing this evolving cyber threat. And critical to our efforts is the Internet Complaint Center, which is better known as IC3. So before I go forward, everyone needs to understand that today's FBI is an intelligence-driven, threat-focused national security organization with both intelligence and law enforcement responsibilities. So what we focus on in the FBI is protecting the American people from terrorist attacks, espionage threats, cyber attacks, and other major criminal threats that come up, which are really emanating from our heavily digitally connected world that we live in today. So the way the FBI accomplishes that is through the IC3. We leverage IC3 to be able to collect intelligence on the threat as it evolves, live data that comes in, and we're able to do a lot with that information and to get a better understanding of the threat and what we're dealing with so we can have a proactive approach to allowing people to understand how to better protect themselves. So I mentioned in the beginning, when I talk about cyber crime, cyber threat, the most practical approach to this and the most practical term I'm going to use is internet crime. So show of hands, I won't make you answer, but everyone knows what internet crime is? Internet crime, right? Can everyone agree that everything we do today revolves around the internet? Right? We shop everything. We shop on the internet. We date on the internet. You don't have to admit to that. We do banking on the internet. Banking. Our health records, right? Some of us work from home. Everything is internet based. So if I am a criminal and I'm looking to make easy money with the less amount of risk to me, the most easiest way to do it is go to the treasure trove, where all the data is, where your data is, where yours is, your banking information, all the personal identifying information that I can get is very profitable to me and it's very hard to catch me because I'm hiding behind a computer. So that's sort of what we're dealing with today in today's environment. That's why this topic is very important, because anyone can be a victim because you're living in the population of where people come out to get data from you in order to make money illegally. So this brings us to IC3. IC3 has 4 pillars. The first thing I kind of hit on is the collection. IC3 was created in May of 2000. The purpose of it was to be able to collect reports from the American people. So if you were a victim of internet crime, you needed to have a formalized place to actually report your crime. The FBI doesn't do police reports. We don't have officers, you call us, we don't come out and take a report. This is your way of filing a report. So if you were a victim of an internet crime, and we'll go over the different types of internet crimes, which we all agree that mostly everything is going to be an internet crime today. So if you're a victim of a crime, you report it to IC3. So IC3, IC3.gov, we collect the information. The next part is the analysis. So we have IC3 located in northern West Virginia. We have our data center there, and we have analysts sitting there around the clock collecting these reports, aggregating the information, putting everything in a centralized location, and then performing an analysis on it to understand the trends and patterns of what they're seeing. So you can have one bad actor who has victims in West Virginia, New York, California, and if all of our individual field officers work that one victim in that one case, we wouldn't be working as effectively. So what IC3 does, they do an analysis and they can see trends in data, and patterns, and put 10, 15, 20 victims together and say these 20 victims is connected to this one bad actor, and then send it to the right office so that the best office can work that investigation. So IC3 collects it, analyzes it, and then they do public awareness. So public awareness is what I'm doing here today, right? So without the IC3 information, I wouldn't be able to have the tools and the information to share with you the most common schemes that are going on today. So IC3 also puts out public service announcements. They work with the Federal Trade Commission. Any data that you see that is focus on cybercrime and the FBI reporting data on cybercrime, it's because the IC3 is collecting this information from the public. And next is referrals. The IC3 report refers cases to not only the FBI, but to other federal agencies as well. They also report it to local and state agencies. So a lot of times, the crimes don't really rise to the impact of a federal case. And if anyone's familiar with the criminal process, there's a threshold to where a case can rise to a federal prosecution. But if it doesn't, then maybe the crime is more appropriate for the state and local authorities. So IC3 has that ability to collect this information and to refer it out to the local and state agencies. What they also have the ability to do is refer this information and kind of communicate with financial institutions. So this is very important. If you don't get anything from this, I need you to really dial in on this. The stats that I'm going to show you, they're going to be staggering. They're going to be alarming. But it is only a fraction of the actual fraud that is being reported. Most people don't report that they were victims of a crime. Some of it is embarrassment. Some they may think that, well, no one cares. But we are only seeing a fraction of what's out there. On the referral side, on the communication side, IC3 has the ability to reach out to financial institutions within a certain time frame and freeze assets that may be connected to fraud. So an example, if you get a call of an investment scheme and you send your bank account information and they take money out of your account, if you report it to IC3 within 24 to 72 hours and they're able to see that this is fraud, they can reach out to your bank as long as it's a domestic wire and freeze that money. If you wait too long, we lose the ability to do that. And I'll talk about that tool later. So this is the part where you dial in and really hone in on this. If you're a victim of internet crime, yes.
You mentioned IC3 several times. Is that IC3.org?
Yes. So at the end, I'll give you the actual website, but it's ic3.gov. Internet Complaint Center, it is an FBI database. It's controlled by the FBI. So ic3.gov. And I'll have a slide for that, and we'll pass it out at the end so that everyone has that information. I apologize if I didn't make that clear to anyone. So you really want, the takeaway from this is if you feel like you're a victim of a crime, report it. Put it into IC3, call the local FBI office so that they can assess it immediately. And if it truly is a crime or a fraudulent technique that you fell victim to, we are able to act fast on that and freeze those funds. Yes.
Do you actually have to be a victim, or do you just see it and know it's a fraud? Do I report that anyway?
You can report it, yes. So the question is, do you have to actually be a victim to report a crime on IC3? You do not actually have to be a victim. So a good example of this, I deal a lot with the elderly fraud. So on the elderly fraud side, someone can have a parent or a grandparent who is a victim of these schemes. And a lot of times, the grandparent, they don't believe that they are a victim. They really think that they're in love with this person, or they think that they really hit the lottery. So they keep sending money. But the grandchildren or the children are the ones that actually report the crime. So they're not the victim of it, but they're reporting it on behalf of the other person because they know that they're a victim of this fraud. Did that answer your question?
Not really.
Okay. Oh, try me again.
I get stuff on the internet
Yeah.
that I know is phony. I see phony.
Oh, I see where you're going. Yes. Yes.
So I just disregard it.
Oh, okay. No,
But should I report that to IC3?
absolutely. Yes, I apologize. The question was, if you're online and you see something that looks weird, doesn't seem right, and you know is fraud, yes, you should report it. That is it, yes. Thank you. I apologize. I didn't get that right the first time, but you do want to report that. That is something you want to report. And it's you want to be careful with that because I don't want to advise you to start clicking on those things. Right? So if you see something that looks strange, unless you're savvy, you can screenshot it without clicking on it, then yes, you can send it. But I advise to just leave it alone, and even you can just type in the IC3 report the website that you found it on. rather than me advising you to play around with it, because you click on something, it's over. Okay, all right. Any other questions before I move forward?
How long,
Yes.
if you know someone who has been a victim of, like a phone call fraud and sending money and all that stuff, how long is too long to wait to report it? Like, you don't find out that your grandma's been doing this for like,
Sure.
a month or so later, and you find out that she's got no money left, and you find out that's where
It's report at any time. Oh, I'm sorry. The question was, how long is too long? So if you know someone is a victim of a crime, is there ever a time where it's too long or too much time has passed
yeah.
before you can report it? The answer is no.
Okay.
You report it as soon as you find out.
Great.
If it's 3, 4, 5, 10 years, doesn't matter.
Do it anyway.
You report it. Because I'm going to tell you, even if we have this thing called the statute of limitations, even if the fraud is too old for the one person that you're reporting, 9 times out of 10, 99.9% of the time, this is not the only victim. So you reporting this information gives us fresh phone numbers, fresh email addresses, because these criminals change their emails and phone numbers and the tactics that they use almost daily. So when we get information live from victims, we're able to aggregate that information and find a pattern of how they're communicating to people, and then we can take them down. So yes, you want to report it immediately. Yes, as soon as you find out, report it. And normally we have someone go out to the victim and we will interview them. I've been on a lot of these interviews, and a lot of times they slam the door in your face. They think that we're the problem. And the criminals do a really good job at explaining to the victim that, look, you really hit the lottery. The government's going to come after you. They're going to say you didn't. Big brother, don't listen to them. Like, trust me, FBI, Postal, they're going to come into your door. Don't listen to them. So they're coached on what to say to us, and we're coached on how to kind of combat that.
And
So,
coached not to tell anybody either.
ooh, that is the number one thing. I wish I can play you a recording. No, don't tell anyone. Don't tell anyone. Yes, yes.
Then if they do, they get really angry.
They get really angry,
Really upset. That's
very upset.
like,
Come
oh,
at
this
them,
isn't
come
right.
after them and threaten them, family, whatever. Yeah.
They do have empty threats, and if you're ever threatened, this is in the presentation as well, call 911, right? That's the number one thing. There's actually a PSA, public service announcement, of our former Director Webster, where he was a victim of this fraud scheme. And look it up when you leave here. It's actually great. He didn't know that this guy was the former director of the FBI, former federal judge. And this guy on the phone is like, I'm going to come to your house and, kill you and do all these bad things to you and your wife. And he's like, okay, sure. But again, if you get those calls, that is not normal, by the way. They normally do not threaten you physically. But if it ever gets to the point where they're threatening you physically, ignore all the IC3 stuff I just told you. Call 911. That's your number one thing, because I would never want to tell you that, oh, these are empty threats. You call 911. And then the next thing is you want to contact the FBI, local FBI office, and then IC3. But I don't want you to think that if you get these physical threats to, oh, IC3, I did good enough, call 911. Because I can't tell you if it's serious or not. I'm not on the phone. I don't know if this is something different than the cybercrime that we're seeing. Oh, yes.
Just very briefly, when you have a somebody uses your credit card number, you didn't buy that,
Yes.
and you call your credit card company and they call you.
Mm-hmm.
What happens to that?
Yes, so the question,
Is that from American Express or should we call you if that happened, or do they take care of it?
the question was if you receive an alert that you did not pay for something on your credit card, or there's a transaction,
Yeah.
They want to
right? And they want to know. So the answer to that is, if there is a unsolicited communication from a bank, don't answer it. Call your bank separately. Just hang up, right? Because you're going to see an example of this where you're getting. I received emails like, hey, there was a Buffalo Wild Wing transaction in Austin, Texas for $30. If you are not aware of this, which they know I'm not aware of it, click here, and then when you click on it, they're going to ask for more information about, so they can, it's fraud.
Fish around,
It's phishing, yes, and we'll get into it. So to answer your question, you want to call the bank. But, I'm sorry, looks like I struck out again. Come on.
Well, American Express contacts you somehow.
Sure.
And you know it's American Express. Not
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, all right, we're
What
past that.
happens to that? You know, you say, no, I didn't make
Oh.
that purchase.
Oh, okay, yes,
And then they do something about it, or take it off, or whatever.
sure.
Do you get report of that?
Understand that. So the question was, if there was a fraudulent transaction and the bank already resolved it, should you report that to us? Because obviously there was fraud on your card. So should you report that to us? I would say no. Only because you can report the transaction itself, the actual transaction, but there aren't really anything else you can report. Like, you weren't actually reached out to. There weren't phone calls. You being victimized is a victim of the crime is over. The bank made you whole. You're fine. If you want to report it, it's great if you have more information about it. But I don't want to tell everyone just like every time something happens, go to ic3.gov and report it. Right? I don't want to communicate that either. But if you feel comfortable to report it, great. But it seems like you're a second tier victim at that point. The bank is more of a victim.
Would American Express do it? They just send you a new card.
No, they send you a new card. It happened to me before. The bank is more of a victim at that point. The bank's the victim because that's why they made you whole. If it were your fault, they would not have refunded you. So the bank would be the victim, and that's up to American Express, Bank of America, Capital One, if they wanted to aggregate all that information and report it to us, but they do not report it.
That was my question.
Yes, okay, thank you. Yep, all right, no problem. Any other questions? All right, we'll go forward. So here are the stats for what we've seen in the last 5 years. So remember, this is just a fraction. And can everyone see sort of a trend here? So in 2023, we have $12.5 billion of losses that were reported through IC3. So in the last 12 months, in 1 year, $12.5 billion. That's a lot of money to me for reported. That's just reported.
And what do you think the multiplier is on that?
Whew. You know, I think that's about 20% of what's actual fraud. That is very low. It's not lucrative enough for some of the things that we're seeing, because if you think about the bigger fraud schemes, we're talking about these big ransomware schemes where like these large companies are being hacked, and some of the ones that you just don't know about, the ransomware schemes that no one's reporting it and they're paying the ransom. So a lot of times, and even for myself working financial crimes, and I can have 100 victims for an investment fraud scheme, maybe only 15 of them reported it to ic3.gov. So, and a lot of them are, well, bad investment, I just moved on. Oh, it was fraud? Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. Well, can I get my money back? And I'm just like, well, no. It's like, oh, well, you know, and I get it. I have a financial background. I understand high risk, high reward. They got a phone call saying we're drilling oil out in Houston, and you can get 300% in 3 months if you give me $100,000. You run the numbers, and you hear oil's big and fracking. You hear all this. Okay, I'm going to do it. And people are willing to roll the dice. And it makes sense. That's high risk, high reward. I get it. Everybody wants to get in first. And that is the way of investments. I understand. So a lot of those people won't report it. And within my case, when I get a reported loss, I don't go back into IC3 and report those losses for them. So that's just me, one agent out of the 15,000 agents that we have, maybe 2,000 work in white collar. We see a lot more losses than what's reported here. And you can see a good trend in the last 5 years. That red bar keeps getting higher. And it's not going to get, it's getting worse as we go along, especially with the rise of, not the rise, I mean, cryptocurrency has been around for years, but more and more schemes are revolving around the cryptocurrency. But don't let these numbers alarm you too much. A lot of this money and a lot of the complaints here can be prevented. And there are going to be simple tips that I shared today that is very easy, like what we talked about not too long ago. Don't click on things. Just don't click on things. And let me take a step back for a second. It's like marketing almost. These criminals understand how to play with your emotions. They know that most people are curious. So they play with that curiosity part, right? You know, most people, we'll stick with the curious word. I have other words, but curious, affections. People want love, so they look for the romance side. I've seen cases where there are lists going around of recent widows. So now they know to target these individuals. Yep. And, you know, it could be someone half their age with a nice profile photo and saying, I'm looking for stability, I'm looking for love. And they know that you're vulnerable at that moment, and they feed right into it. And they're just going, and you start sending them money, and you think you're going to meet them, and you never meet them. So they know how to play with your emotions and understand how to get money out of you. It's all about building that trust. Once they build trust, they have a hold on you. Any questions about these numbers? So the top frauds we're seeing are the imposter frauds, online shopping, prizes, sweepstakes, investments, business and job opportunities. So imposters is a huge category. We're going to break that down a bit because imposter fraud, you got IRS calls. Anyone get any calls from the IRS? Yeah, they called me too. IRS, you get, oh my God, you get, just don't answer it, yeah. You get a lot of these imposters that they're saying they're going to arrest you or you owe money. The romance thing is imposter. You have people posing as military, individuals. And we'll go over different schemes to kind of break that down. What I like to see here is, like to point out, is the investment fraud. So investment is is growing faster than any other fraud scheme. An investment is, I can do an hour presentation on investment fraud. But to put it in simple terms, it's the smallest amount of complaints that are coming in, but the largest dollar amount of losses. So that means criminals are getting more bang for their buck per person. So these other schemes, they may get $100 here, $200 here, but the average person on the investment fraud are given thousands of dollars. So you will have someone with a list of 1,000 Americans, which is very profitable. A list of Americans is very lucrative, just like, the white pages, yellow, just a list of that. And they'll go down that list and call everyone. And out of 1,000 people, if I can get 10 people to give me $2,000 each, that's a good day for a criminal. That's a good week because it's easy money. You sit in your basement in your pajamas or whatever you're wearing, and you just do this and you do this. And it's not much effort to it. We'll get into the investment as well. So imposter scams. I told you I'll get into some of the details. IRS, we talked about that. Hey, you owe money. You didn't pay your taxes. We're going to come arrest you. So I give you a free tip, right? I don't think this is going to backfire at all, right? But if we are going to arrest you, meaning the federal government, we are not going to call you and tell you. Yeah, we don't do that. Yeah, exactly. Oh, whoa. The law says 6 a.m. But 6 a.m., 2 a.m., what's the difference when you're asleep, right? So 6 a.m., right? We are not going to call you and give you a warning, even for white-collar criminals, because white-collar criminals, a lot of times we would just do what we call a summons. So I would go to I'll knock on their door, and I'm not going to call them, and I'll tell them, like, hey, we got papers for you, surrender, turn yourself in, or give this to your lawyer. But I would never, ever call you. We don't have badge numbers. So, our badge there isn't a number. So when someone says, hey, this is IRS agent, John Brown, badge number 5568. No. And lastly, if you can't really understand them, they're not a federal government employee. Now, we do have employees who speak multiple languages. But I guarantee that when they speak English, you will understand them clearly. Their grammar will be correct. And that goes for the IRS as well. So not saying that because you speak a different language and you have an accent, meaning that you're not a real, federal employee. But you can tell, I don't have to dig into it, but you can kind of, something's not right here. Romance online dating scam. Look, nothing wrong with dating online. I am not opposed to it. But you just have to be safe. If you haven't met someone, what's the old rule? If I didn't meet you, shake your hand, look you in the eye, don't give that person money. So no matter how much in love you are with this person, meet them. Meet them somewhere in a public place, right? Public place, Starbucks somewhere. Have a conversation with them. Learn. If right away they're sending money, they're asking for money, or hey, I want to meet you, but I need to pay for my flight. Well, that's a bad start to a relationship in my book, right? So if you have to give out money in order to meet with this person, in order to have a romantic relationship with them, and I repeat, there's nothing wrong with dating online. You just don't give money to them. Just don't give money, and don't send pictures of yourself. That's not good either. That's for a different presentation. Huh?
Those aren't valid either.
The pictures are not good. They're going to show you some really good pictures. But from working these cases, they're going to make you think, wow, this $5,000 I'm about to send is worth it. Because that's another presentation. I need to stop. Military, you'll get, hey, my son's overseas, combat tour, wounded, raising money. Can you please help out? And a lot of times this is going to be in an email. And the military goes with the romance scam as well, because a lot of times this person's in the military. You can't talk on the phone with them because they're in a combat zone and they can't have phones. So, I want to get back home to you. I'm dodging bullets every day. My commanding officer just said I can't get home. I have to pay my own way. I love you. $10,000, please. That's the scheme. Lottery sweepstakes. Yeah, this is very common. Lottery sweepstakes is very popular as well. This is something, and I won't waste too much time on it, but you hit the lottery, $5 million, pay your taxes up front, and you'll have your $5 million. So on the $5 million, you owe $50,000 worth of taxes. Pay your $50,000, and we'll give you your check. And they're very convincing. They have official emails. They will call you and do the whole music, dun, 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 you won, and you're happy, you're excited. Even if you didn't play anything, right? It's playing on emotions. People like winning things. So it's like, oh yeah, I won something. I didn't play the lottery, but yeah. And that's what they're doing. Grandparent scam. This is actually a really clever one. You get a call between 1 a.m. and 6 a.m., that time where you're just kind of like, I don't know what's happening. And they're really good at this. Hey, Grandma, it's Kevin. I was in a car accident. I accidentally hit someone. I'm in jail. I got one phone call, got 60 seconds left. Please, my attorney's going to call you. Please send $10,000 to bail me out. I'm in deep trouble. I may have killed someone. Click. God. You try to call Kevin, because this is the real name of your grandson. So they go online. They're going through your website. You just create that new Facebook account or whatever it's called these days, and they're like, oh, you got a grandson named Kevin. Okay. Oh, he's in college. He's driving. All right. So now they have information. They know your name. If there's a term of endearment, that they call you, Nana, Papa, they're going to use those words, and they're just looking at chats, and they're able to figure that out. So they will call you and say those things, and you will immediately call whoever you need to call and say, send $10,000 to this attorney that's calling because I need to get Kevin out of jail tonight. Pause. Take a breath. Call Kevin. Kevin doesn't answer. Call Kevin's mom and dad. Mom and dad doesn't answer. If he lives too far away, you can't drive there. But let Kevin sit in the jail throughout the night. I'm just let him stew a little bit, right? With a clear head, clear mind, the next morning, call the police department where Kevin's located, right? Maybe they didn't say that on the phone. Maybe after 6 a.m. the parents are awake. No, we just talked to Kevin, or he's right here. He came home for break. Figure it out. They act on the sense of urgency. That is one of the biggest things. They know that urgency is a thing. Get in on this investment now or you're going to miss out. Kevin's sitting in jail, or, this urgency is another emotion that they're going to play on. So with this grandparent scam, I tell you, because this is actually a very clever one, and people will do anything to help their grandchildren. And this is actually, it's dying down a bit, but the dollar amount is pretty high on it. Financial institutions, we talked about that. We'll see examples of that. Banks reaching out to you, telling you to update your account, provide new information so that we can send you your new credit card. Government agency, we talked about the arrest warrant. We're the FBI. I wish I can show you this photo. I just got one 2 days ago. I didn't have time to put it in the presentation, but a guy sent me his creds, the credentials that we carry, you know, in the movies where they go FBI, those things. And he's telling me that he's going to arrest me. And I'm like, and so I play around with him. So I record it, and I'm like, all right, yeah, so what do I need to do? And he's telling me these things, and I'm like, send proof. So it's some guy with creds. And it looks like he just like printed them, you know, on the computer, and he's like, these are my creds. And I just laughed at it. I wanted to put it in the presentation, but the deadline passed. But we will never send photos of our credentials to anyone. It's actually against our policy for anyone to photograph our credentials. You would never see a photocopy of anyone's credentials. So if someone say, hey, I'm really FBI, and they're speaking the FBI language because they just watched the FBI last night on CBS, right? So they're throwing out all the terms, you know, they're maybe a Kevin Costner movie, and they're like, oh, yeah, I know the FBI. And you're like, wow, this guy's the FBI. Once they send those creds to you, game over. They're not FBI. Tech support, we'll talk about this as well. That's a huge one. Hey, Microsoft.com, Microsoft support, your account there has been a login and your account at this location. They'll give you the IP address, they'll give you the location. If this is not you, please click here and update your information. Or your password has changed. Please click here and change. That's a really good one because you can believe it, right? Oh man, my password.
But I will tell you,
Yes.
most people don't know what their IP address is.
They don't.
I mean, I've got a MiFi, which is my internet because I live
Sure.
in the Boondocks.
Yeah.
But I know what my IP
You know your IP.
So if somebody sent me that,
Mhm.
I would be able to sit here and say, oh, you think you're so smart, let me tell you.
You see, you're ahead of the game.
Well, you know, we've got a really big IT department where
Sure.
I am finishing working,
Mhm.
and they send out bogus things all the time to all of us. We're nurses. And, you know, I just got one yesterday. I thought, oh, tomorrow's my last day, and it's Nurses Week coming up. And it didn't read exactly right, but it said $25 gift certificate for National Nurses Week. And I
Oh my
thought,
God.
that's really nice. I'm leaving tomorrow, and they're not happy about it. I paid $25.
Yeah.
My coworker just said, I have a $5 credit thing in the mail from our manager for Starbucks. And I said, well, you're not on good list. But, you know some of these things.
You know somebody, yeah.
They keep trying to fool you.
Oh, they try new ways every day to scam you. If that's all they do is sit there and think of ways to deceive you, this didn't work, I'm going to try this. And they just keep playing around with it until they figure out what works.
Does
All right.
the FBI have anybody that monitors the internet and to put a bait out there trying to attract and catch the scammers?
So the question was, does the FBI have anyone who monitors the internet to track the scammers? That is a loaded question. That is not a simple answer. Yes and no. Only because we live in the United States and there are rights, right? And just because people put things on the internet or they're doing certain activity on the internet does not give us the authority to investigate those activities or look into those activities. There will be a major issue if we just monitored everyone internet activity because of the country that we live in, which is a great country, and it's good why we can't do that. You don't want the FBI or any federal agency to have that authority. But to look for information or to look at trends of what cyber criminals are doing, like known places where yes. So if we have a reasonable expectation, or if we have the investigative authority to look at a certain parameter of internet activity, then yes, we do monitor that information. But I just want to make it clear, we cannot just broadly just look at the internet, because I mean, you can imagine that would be a huge issue if people, we'll fast forward that as well. So phishing attacks, right? Did that answer your question, sir? Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. So phishing attacks, I think someone mentioned phishing here before, right? So we're going to talk about that a bit. Phishing is just the attempt to, usually via email on a website, it's going to attempt to get financial information or any type of sensitive data from you in a fraudulent way. So we're going to go over phishing examples here, but it's really just sending an email to you and trying to convince you to turn over personal information, usually bank information, but today any information is valuable. Even a partial of a social security number is valuable. With today's ability to run algorithms, and we could, not we, but some people can figure out the remaining numbers of a date of birth, social security number, anything can be valuable these days. So that's what phishing is, the impersonation through an email or a website to get some type of sensitive data from you so that he can take advantage of you and use your information. So the common methods that people are committing these crimes, just remember the underlining is internet. Like all of this is done over the internet. Every last one of these methods, from telephone, in person, obviously. Well, yeah, if you think about virtual, Zoom, that can be in person or over the internet. Email, social media. Telephone, they're not picking up landlines. They're using internet telephone. Spoofing, meaning they can mask their phone number. They can make their number appear from anywhere. And it could show up in your caller ID as anything they wanted to look at. So telephone is still the most common way that people fall victim to these scams. And when we start going over the age breakdown, you'll see why telephone is very important. In person, this is a good one, sort of like what I'm doing here today. Imagine if I wasn't the FBI and I was here just to give you, have an investment pitch, right, of a new company I started. And there are people this bold that would reach out to an organization like this and stand here and try to pitch something to you that they know is fraud. Anybody watch American Greed? Have you ever seen that show? Oh, you should watch it. It's great. American Greed. There's like over 20 seasons. It's all the top fraud schemes that has gone on over the years. And it's all agencies, and it's like a narrated step-by-step on how it's done. It's very entertaining. I know something's wrong with me, but I sit and watch it, even though my wife's like, you do this every day. Why do you come and watch it? Because it's just relaxing. It's on CNBC. So if you search CNBC, I don't know what internet provider you have or cable, but it's a very popular show. It's actually really good and educational as well. Yes.
Before you get too far away from telephones,
Yes.
you get all these fraud calls or scam calls, and always it's a little town nearby.
Yes.
where you are.
Yes.
Like, Ruth or Glenn or whatever.
Yeah.
But if it said, if they were able to make it say Henrico, I might be a little more, why can't they do that? Why does it always wind up some little outpost? Does anybody, is that the same?
Well, sometimes you'll get something that's an 804 area code, or I border on a 540. So that's local. It
Well,
just doesn't say.
it's always 804, but it
Oh.
comes up, a tiny little crossroads out, and right away
Sure.
you know it's a scam.
Yeah.
I'm wondering why if they can do that, why can't they just make it say something that you might be more inclined to?
Yes.
I'm glad, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I'm
Yes.
curious.
Yeah. So the question was, why are the people who are calling you, when they spoof their number or mask their number to make it appear as if they're calling from somewhere else, why are they calling from the rural kind of locations and not matching it to your exact destination, like where you are actually located, to make it more,
Exactly.
yes, appealing, right? Okay, so loaded question, weird answer, but a lot of times the different companies that they are using to spoof their phone numbers, mask their phone numbers, they are only allowed to get the location for that certain area. So great for us, great for you, because now that's a red flag that if you see this area, it's common that it's fraud. Because if you're a reputable company, or why are you here? Like, that just doesn't make sense to me. So the short answer to that is it's really where they are allowed to commit the crime. So not everyone. There are certain companies, there are certain banks, there are certain in the healthcare fraud world, pharmacies, that we know that is kind of rampant for fraud because of the lax procedures that happen in those areas. So just like anything else, some places don't ask questions. So you don't have to provide a lot of, KYC, right? Know your customer information. You don't have to provide a lot of that. So criminals go where you don't have to provide a lot of information. So that is the short answer to that, but I can give you a more detailed answer at the end of this, because it's a very great question.
How can you get it to stop? Like, he gets a whole bunch of them, and I don't get
I got
it.
3 in the
Woo!
last 2 days.
FTC is working on it, Federal Trade Commission. How do you get the fraud to stop? The phone calls.
This,
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean,
this,
first.
Oh, my goodness.
Morton, the only thing I know, if there's a prison.
They're looking for you.
yeah, well, there's another one with the same area code and just says United States. Then the next one is La Mesa, California.
It's really bad. So the FTC, Federal Trade Commission, you should have noticed in the last year that you actually get the notice now. This is fraud or something. Spam, which is good. So that's a win for FTC. Like, they're allowed to do that. But before, they weren't allowed to do that for various reasons. As I mentioned before, the country we live in there, and it's good, right? So, but now that's something that you can at least ignore it now, which it's not the greatest because I still get the calls, but you can ignore it and you know not to answer it.
Well, I don't know what he's
And
been
the do
doing, but
not
I don't get
call
it.
list doesn't
Doesn't prevent that. So the best way to do it, and this is outside the realm of this presentation as well, but I'll pause for about 60 seconds just to give you the high level. You can create your own numbers as well. Anyone heard of voice over IP? So Google phone, you can create phone numbers. So if you are, and this is like, if you're like looking over your shoulder type person, there are people who have separate phone numbers for everything they do, separate email addresses. So when you go buy a muffin somewhere, you hear the person say, what's your email? Or can I get your phone number? When you go to a store, people are asking for your email and phone number when you're just trying to buy something. It's just, are you a rewards member? What's your phone number? So anytime you enter your phone number somewhere, it's going into a database. And if criminals are able to get access to that information, or not just even criminals, if you apply for a mortgage, and no one's applying for a mortgage right now, right? If you apply for a mortgage, interest rates, right? That was an interest rate joke. If you're applying for a mortgage, and as soon as you hit apply to, let's say, Chase Bank, Wells Fargo, everyone is going to call you because that information, Chase or Wells Fargo shares that information with to everyone. If you read the fine print, that information is shared. So you're going to get 20 to 30 phone calls because your phone number is being shared. So the quick answer to that question, if you know you're applying for a mortgage, if you get a Google phone, a voice over IP phone number, and say, I'm going to use this phone number for my mortgage application process, and you use that phone number, which is still on your phone, it's still attached to your phone, so you don't have 5 phones running around. So anytime that app people will call that number, you know not to answer it, because I don't use that for anything else but this mortgage process. So anyone call me from that, you can actually set decline and it will never ring, because you know no one's important is calling from that number. Again, that's outside the realm of this presentation. That's a totally different, like, one-on-one, how do I, defeat all these calls? But for me, we live in this world. You can try to hide as much as you can. You can't hide. Data is everywhere. You can't hide from it. You just have to learn about the techniques and how to get around it.
Just don't give it out.
I say no thank you. Everyone thinks I'm rude. They're buying phone number? No.
And I do the same
Yeah,
thing.
email address? No.
No, sorry.
What's your zip code? For what? I get that a lot too. I went and bought a laptop at Best Buy. They're like, oh, what's your address? I'm not shipping it. I'm buying it. Like, what do you need my address for? So it's just say no. What are you going to do? You can't buy it? All right, I go to Walmart then. Email, social media. Social media is rising. That's another common method they're going to reach out to you. And social media falls into the romance scam as well. Email is huge. You're going to see a lot of examples of that as well. Forms of payment. Surprisingly, gift cards are very high. Like, people are paying by gift cards. So another red flag, and I'll throw them out as we go, but I have a slide of red flags, is if someone asks you to, let's say you fell for the scheme, and you're like, okay, I'm going to send you $500. For some reason, after this presentation, no one should fall for the scheme. But if for some reason, like, you nodded off, you didn't really hear what I said, and you fall for the scheme, And the next question is, or response from the scammer is, okay, I need you to go to CVS and get 5 green dot cards, $100 on each card. And I don't want you to use the same CVS. Go to 5 different CVS. And if you find yourself getting in the car and driving to each CVS, as you just think to yourself, what am I doing? Right? If you keep, and then you're paying, whether it's to pay the taxes on your lottery that you just won that you did not play, or this nice, good-looking person that you're sending money to that you never met, if they're telling you to do all these different things, or they're telling you to convert it to crypto and then send it to a virtual wallet of a person you never heard of. Well, why can't I send it directly to you? No, send it to ABC Incorporation. You know who ABC Incorporation is? Another victim who was being told that, hey, I trust you, I love you, we're going to be together one day, but I need you to go to the bank and open up ABC Incorporation bank account. And people are going to send you money. When you get that money, love, look, I love you. When you get it, forward it over to me. So they're setting up layers. So sometimes you are the person who is the cash cow, and sometimes you're just the person who is just forwarding money along. And a lot of times, if they're nice and they're receiving a lot of fraud money, they'll give you a little commission. 1% every transaction, 2%. We recently, a case that I had someone who, I won't say where, but who was responsible for $8 million of moving fraudulent money. $8 million went through this one person's account. Wow. One person. When we caught this person was in the act of transferring $400,000. We were able to stop it and realize that this $400,000 was intercepted through a business email compromise scheme. Someone just bought a house, and this fraudulent person, this scammer, hacked into their emailed the person and said, hey, we are the title company. Send your down payment here. Here's the bank account. So they wired their $400,000 to that person. I know, right? That's just bad. And this person, so hopefully I'm not losing anyone. So person over here just lost their $400,000 down payment on their dream home. And that person who stole the money was told to send it over to the person that I caught. He had the $400,000 in his hand, and then he or she was told to take that money and send it to another person. But we were able to catch that person with the $400,000 and send it back to where it belonged. So there's so many layers involved, but that's just a red flag, okay? Like, if they're going to tell you to do gift cards, that just doesn't make sense to me. Bank transfer payments, Cash App, Venmo, different apps like that. Wire transfers, which are still common. Checks is a problem because people are still using checks, and checks are easy to falsify. Cash is still king. People are still stuffing cash in envelopes and mailing them. And as you know, as I mentioned before, cryptocurrency. Crypto is moving up, and that is it's a challenge because it's hard to find out who is actually behind the crypto. And once it goes to crypto, it's very hard to pull back.
Could I ask a question?
Yes, of course.
What about like cashier's checks from banks? I've heard that they're not even valid. You could be scammed. You're going to sell something, and somebody's going to give you $20,000 for it from their bank, and then you get a cashier's check, and you give them the goods, and then there's no cashier's check.
Yes, cashier checks. What about cashier checks? That was the question. Is cashier checks can be fraud as well. So
How do you prevent that? How do you make a transaction? Because, you don't really know the person.
I know.
And how are you going to collect the money in a valid way?
It's very tough. It adds another layer for everyone. Everyone has to do a couple more steps before I can just accept your check. It could be as simple as I only do cash, or I do, that's a lot, right? $10,000 in cash. What are we doing, in a duffel bag and you're just passing it over?
Right.
Then we got other problems, right? But really, it's just adding that additional layer. So Maybe you want to, if you want to accompany them to the bank and get the cashier check. If it's a long distance, I had someone who bought a vehicle over, oh my God, Craigslist vehicle.
Oh, yeah.
So the person lived in Ohio, this person was in West Virginia, and he mailed them a cashier check. So pretty tough. I would say wire transfer, right? Or, maybe something where if you are going to receive this money and you are the person selling the car, then maybe wait for the check to cash. It's very difficult to gauge, but you have to add this additional layer. No longer can you just accept people's word and accept checks and cash. I know it's sad. As I say it, I'm just like, the world we live in. It's, you can't trust anyone, not even the person next to you. Everyone look around, person, yes.
So on the cash topic, why is the bank requiring an ID to provide a cash transaction? Is there a federal law behind that?
Ooh, no.
Bank
So what-
America, you cannot deposit cash in a Bank America account without an ID?
You can't deposit into
Or any
someone
bank.
else's account.
So
Cash. You can't-
question is there a federal law for getting someone's ID or checking ID for depositing cash?
Yeah,
Never heard of that.
they've blamed it. I asked the bank, they said, oh, it's a new federal regulation, banking regulation.
Maybe they're trying to prevent money laundering?
But $10?
Yeah, $10. No, that's a tough one. I will need to look into that. I don't use cash a lot, so I don't know. That's a good one. And they're just requiring to show your ID.
Yeah.
I made a deposit at the credit union, they asked me for my license.
As an FBI agent, I like it. That's due diligence, right? It may be a minor inconvenience for you, but it could be deterring a lot of crimes that could happen. Now, it stinks. I mean, if you think about it, before 9/11, the whole flying was a lot easier, right? Now you can't take your toothpaste. You got to take your shoes off, lotion up.
Pay money for some kind of.
Yes, to avoid that. It's the world we live in. So inconvenience for everyone, but it's a bigger picture behind it. Yes, safety for all. So trust me, I live in the same world. I am bothered by it as well, but I always think, because of the line of work I'm in, I always walk away and I'm like, I hated that. It was another 10 minutes of my life that I will never get back, but it is a good way to prevent fraud. I walked into a bank before, and I believe it was, may have been Truist or BB&T at the time, and at every teller, they had a printout of something from IC3, and it said that if you are told to withdraw money from someone you don't know, stop right away. And they had all these like red flags because people will go to the bank and they'll be withdrawing cash. The teller can't tell you not to withdraw cash. Like they can tell you, but they can't hold your money. But they had these signs there. So I walked up and I'm like, this is great. I love that you have this. And the teller is just staring at me like, sir, can I help you? I'm like, no, this is great. And I didn't say, well, I'm sure they reported me, like maybe. And they did, and they're like, weird guy comes in, and he's excited about a flyer, and whatever. But it was just awesome to see that they had this flyer there to kind of a preventive step. So I'm sorry you got to show your ID, but I like it. It helps. Yes, so crime types. Please help me with time. If I'm going over time, just let me know. Yes.
I was just gonna ask, I make a purchase online, I have a choice. I can pay by personal check, I can pay by credit card, or I can pay online direct from my bank. What's the relative safety?
Ooh. So the question is different forms, or PayPal, so different forms of payment online when you go to buy something. And your question was, what's the best,
Relative safety.
the safest way? Okay, I will ask a question back. Where are you buying this product from? Is it a reputable company? Amazon, something that's traded on the stock exchange. I like to use that as just a rule of thumb. If it's something if it's a reputable company, all forms of payment are just fine. If it's something on, I don't know, Craig's, something where maybe it's a specialized item that you want it made for someone and one person makes it somewhere. And so the best way to hide your information, I always think about hiding my information. I use credit card because credit card for me adds another layer. If you use debit card and it turns out to be fraud, if you call the bank, it'll take forever. Your money's gone. But if it's credit card companies are really easy to work with when there are signs of fraud. You call them and say, hey, this was a fraudulent transaction, $200. They look into it, make sure that it was actually you who did it, and you usually refund it within 24 hours. But if it's a debit card, it takes a lot longer. Yes, we're running low. Sorry. Yep. Yes.
I know we said an hour. This is great. If anybody needs to go,
Yeah.
you're free to go. We are recording this. It'll be on the website. You can watch the end of it. But I love this that there's so much interaction. So we're going to keep going as long as it takes. But if anybody does need to leave, please feel free to do so.
Okay. All right. Yes.
What about a second party like PayPal?
PayPal is a reputable way to make payments. So if the question is, should I use PayPal to
Instead of
your credit card? I don't know much about PayPal because I don't use it. And in my professional line of work, I haven't seen a lot of risk with PayPal. So I can't really answer it directly. But hopefully, if you give me I can jot some of this stuff down and get answers and send them over so that we can get that answered for you. But the safest way, if you're dealing with a reputable company, just use any form of payment. But I normally use a credit card if I'm going with someone that seems strange. If you want an extra layer, you can, so they won't have access to your information, you can buy like a prepaid debit card for the amount and then pay it that way. Because the debit card itself doesn't come back to your personal information. So if you really feel like, weird about it, and you don't, because once they get your credit card information, you're concerned that they have your credit card now. So not only did they defraud you of the transaction, they have your credit card number. But credit card companies will change that number as soon as you call them. So credit cards are really good. Yes.
I had a cautionary tale for folks. I bought a couple of gift cards late last year from CVS. Gave them out to my grandchildren and put a couple $100 on each one. And they were empty the minute they went in to use them.
Mm-hmm.
It turned out on the back, and you couldn't have seen this, it was didn't look like it had been tampered with.
Mm-hmm.
The lady in the store didn't recognize that and put the money on it. Two of them, somebody had scratched out the little 3-number code ahead of time. And
Yes.
somebody spent that money
Yes.
that I put on there, and it was spent in California.
California.
So, word
They
to
have
wise.
stuff about exactly that on TV.
Yes.
Like the other morning.
They just go in
Yes,
the
it
store,
is.
take 'em out, do what they do.
Yep.
So they take them out of the container
Mm-hmm.
and scratch it off.
Scratch it. And when it's loaded on, yep.
So the cashier probably just pulled it out.
Had no idea.
They pull it out, they just do it right there with on the cardboard.
Yep. So that's great. That's actually really good. That's a very common scheme. Not as common, but I've seen it happen where the question or the comment was they're using gift cards that are in stores, and while they're on the shelves, scammers or criminals, whatever you want to call them, will scratch them off to get the numbers and then put them back on the shelf. And once you buy this card, at some point someone will buy it, you load money on it, now they have the number. They have the number and they have the money. And a lot of times it will be in another state, and it's always for online purchase. They're going to buy things at Walmart.com or Amazon, and it's going to be shipped to an address of a person who's a victim of another scheme, as we talked about before, add in layers to it so that it can separate themselves from the fraud. So, yes, thank you for that. That's actually the gift card scam that people are doing as well.
What about sell and then vote? I mean, people, like my grandchildren say, use that
Sure.
all the time for everything.
Sure.
And my husband just had doing an alumni party where the people were going to sell the money.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead and tell what happened.
Well, they
sending and receiving banks for Zelle, in this case, have different rules about what they detect and would constitute fraud or money laundering or something. But the remedy in this case, they just shut it off. They detected a high level of activity.
Mhm.
This is 100 people sending in $100 each.
Sure.
And a lot of it took place in a very short order. Said it's closed, and there was no conversation whatsoever. They just closed.
They just shut you down, huh?
Yes. So the comment was people are with Zelle or these money transfer platforms, they will shut down your accounts if there is a significant amount of activity within a short period of time. And that's one of those things we talked about before, the inconvenience, because if you think about it, it seems sketchy, like the same dollar amount in a short period of time, and it's unfortunate, but a lot of times they think they're protecting someone, and they need to have these parameters in place. Because you think of something like Zelle, Venmo, they are, it's a lot of risk involved. So they have to have a lot of parameters in place to ensure that you feel safe using their platform. And that's another thing where I feel comfortable that they are actually, I'm sorry it happened to you, but it's something in place. So maybe next, I really don't know how to fix that. I'm a dinosaur. I don't use Venmo and Zelle and things like that. It can be an inconvenience because people always ask me to use. I don't know enough about it. I investigate it, but I don't use it. I don't investigate it. People I investigate use these platforms, but I just don't use them. So I don't know enough about it, but I can say that when I hear those parameters that are in place, it's actually just to save people not as smart as you. There are some people who are just like sending money out and zero. That's why I don't use it yet. Zero teenagers. My time is coming. Not looking forward to it. All right, so thank you. I need a drink. So phishing is our number one complaints. You have 298,000 complaints with phishing. Remember, we had over 800,000 complaints last year. Number one is phishing, 298,000. You will see, I want to point your attention to investment, 39,570. Lower investment complaints, right? Remember, not everyone's reporting their investment fraud, but very low. Let's look at the next slide. Investment alone is $4.5 billion in losses for investments. So remember, I kind of talked about it before. Not a lot of people are reporting investment fraud, but it is the number one in terms of dollar amounts. BEC scam, we talked about that briefly, but someone hacking an email account, and they're basically telling you they can act like they're your boss. They're in the accounts payable department, somewhere where they're known to ask you for money. So, hey, I'm in a meeting right now. I need you to pay that vendor. Please wire $15,000 to this account. Can't talk right now. Do it now. And when you look at that email, it looks like it came from, so if the company name is abc1.com or at gmail.com, they will have abcl@gmail.com. So, instead of one. So you're looking really fast. Oh, that came from my boss, ABC1. Yes, that's his email, yeah. 15,000, and you try to call him and it doesn't go through, and it's like, well, I'm in a meeting. I need you to send it right now. Stop asking questions. People send the $15,000 because their boss asked them to do it, and it came from their email. So how do you get their email? Guess, how do you get your CEO, CFO's, vice president email? Thank you. Go to the website. Go to LinkedIn. Go anywhere. You can find this information. So you take that email and you're savvy enough, which is not hard to do, and create a new email address to make it look very similar to it. How do I find out who's in the accounts payable department at that company?
You look them up too.
Look them up too. LinkedIn, right? Oh, wow. Or you look at the company's website. Oh, accounts payable. Sarah. Okay. There's Sarah email. Same thing. You just reverse engineer it. You do your research and then you send emails. Very easy. They can get $15,000 easy. So BEC scams $2.9 billion by doing the exact scam that I just mentioned over and over and over to several different people.
What about tech support?
Oh, yeah, we're tech support. Yes, tech support. Oh, yeah, $924 million. Yes, that is Again, Microsoft reaching out to you, or you get a virus, something pops across your screen. They're able to kind of make something flash across your screen and say, oh, it will make noise. Oh, you have one? Yeah. Click here, call this number. You call them, they're like, yeah, you need to do X, Y, Z. Send us your credit card and we'll get you the top, software protection. Or a lot of times, those are rookies, right? A lot of them are like Microsoft, Google. They're going to reach out to you in that format. And it's going to seem very safe because it's Microsoft. And the email is like Microsoft support at whatever. And you're like, Microsoft is reaching out to me because my account has been hacked. So they're going to use the information. I have ic3.gov. And look, you've been a victim of cyber fraud. This is a very rampant scheme, and we want to protect your identity. As a valued customer for the last X amount of years, we want to make sure that your account is at the utmost protection. Please click here to update your account so that we may be able to put your account in the new technological advanced security, something great. Because you're a legacy member, right? Now we need to get you over here so that you're safe. Oh, wow. You click on that thing and it's over. And a lot with the tech support is really, that's when they're calling you. So they send the email or they'll call you and provide some type of support to help you with your computer issues that they created for you. So they're creating the computer issues for you. Great question on that.
Here's my question.
Yes, sir.
You're a victim of that. Or
Yes.
your relative is a victim of that. What do you do to protect them going forward?
If you're a victim of any of this or the one we just talked about, the tech support?
They call and you give out all kinds of personal information.
Sure.
What do you do to protect yourself going forward?
Then they
What do you
call
suggest?
their son and say,
Yeah,
I
and then
think
I
I
get the
did
phone
something
call from my
bad.
dad.
Yes, yes.
because,
Then what?
So if the question was, if you are a victim of any of this, let's say tech support, and you gave all your information out, what do you do next? So the first thing you want to figure out is, what information did I give out, right? Everything. So email address, phone number, social security number,
all kinds of stuff.
credit card. Let's just go with that. You gave it all. Let's just say
Birthday, address, social security
you
number.
took a picture of yourself holding your social security card, holding your credit cards, and you smiled, and then yes, you did all that stuff. Okay, all right. Let's start with that. You could take the internet away.
Phone call, I think.
So what you want to do is, the first thing, if you give your social security number out, you probably want to freeze your credit right away. That's something that is very easy to do. A lot of reputable companies will do that. So you want to freeze that right away. The next thing you want to do is, if you gave out credit card numbers, you want to call your bank and cancel them, right? Don't cancel, mess up your credit. You want to, change the numbers, right? If you gave out phone numbers and email addresses, just stop using that phone number and email address. Because the phone number cannot hurt you. You're just going to get strange calls now. The email address, now it's out there. So you're going to get more scams. Anytime you give your information to a scammer, it goes to a list. So let's say you are a victim of fraud and you gave your information to a scammer, that scammer puts your information on a list. And this list they have names for them, but I will not say the name. The better sucker list, something like that, right? That's good, right? It's not a bad word, but that's what they call it. They have a sucker list, or known victims. You will make money from these people, and these scammers will sell that list to another scammer, and say, "Hey, I got 1,000 prime people right here. I made money on these people." These people, they answered their phone, but they didn't give money. So that's good money. These people don't answer. They actually cursed me out. So we're not going to mess with that list. So you fall into a list, a category, and that's why the phone numbers and emails that you give out, when it goes on, it's out there on that list. If you gave your information and you didn't give money, but you gave the information, you're on the list.
They'll work on you.
Oh, they will wear you down. Wear you down. One day you're going to give because you answered the phone and you gave your information. So that means the chances of you giving me money is going to be very high.
What about almost everybody here.
Yes, the question is what happens when a company like AT&T or any company that has a lot of your personal information gets hacked? What do you do? As a victim of this as well, anyone remember the OPM hack? Yes? So government employees. The short answer is there's not much you can do about it. The company's responsibility is to provide some type of protection for you. So they should be, I see your eyes, you don't like that. They should provide some type of identity theft protection. They should say, hey, our data was hacked. And they usually should send a notice saying what was actually hacked. These people have your email address and they have your phone number, but they don't have anything else. So that is the company that is supposed to provide some type of identity theft protection for the next 2 years or something where, because they assessed it and see that the breach was so significant that they need to provide some type of remedy. And if AT&T didn't do that for you, then they must have assessed it and felt like the information that was breached did not reach a high threshold. So I can't speak for AT&T, but other huge companies, those are different methods that they have to work with their customers. I think I mentioned before, like we all live in this world. Everyone can be hacked or will be hacked in some way. And that is a good example. You can just be a customer. You know, I could have just went to the donut shop and then anyone heard the gas stations, the skimming devices that are put on the gas station? Yes, you could have just pumped up at Wawa, right? And, you know, there was a skimmer, and now your credit card information is there.
The Costco employees are checking the credit card machine every day, a couple times a day, to make sure there's no skimmers on it.
Yeah.
Not the
What-
gas
Does
one.
anybody know what a skimmer looks like? Because I look when I go to Costco to get gas. Because I'm there 3 times a week.
Go to Costco and tell them.
And ask them to show you one. So there are a lot of inconveniences, and companies are feeling the same thing, where the amount of time they have to spend with finding out if fraud is on their location, for a company, minutes add up, hours add up, having employees check for those things. So you just can't avoid it these days. The best way is just to remain safe and, do the most proactive, prevention methods that you can do. But you want to mitigate the losses. You want to mitigate the chances of you being a victim of this. Yes?
Do you recommend VPNs?
VPNs are very, very important. VPN, the virtual private network, we can talk offline about the VPNs, or if anyone has questions about that. In the interest of time, I'm going to roll with the rest of the presentation. But I'm going to answer yours. But VPNs, we will talk about that. Yes?
I just see real estate on the list.
Yes.
I hear commercials all the time, mortgage, they already were taken over by people, legit companies. Is that something I should be worried about? Protecting my mortgage, and is that what that real estate?
Yes, I see. So the question is, real estate companies, should you be, with the real estate category here, should you be concerned with people taking over like titles of houses? So with the internet crime, this is more talking about the example I gave before, where someone gave a down payment for their house and it was a scam but the scam you're referring to is anyone can go to the county clerk's office and provide a deed and basically get a title of your house. If you watch some of the commercials that come on late at night, they have companies that will tell you, hey, get title insurance because of this. That is a scam that is occurring, and I actually seen some of those scams before, but that is not what we're talking about here. But I can talk after this with you about that, because that is a growing problem as well with taking over your house, the title of your house. Top 10 states by losses. California is number one, 2.1 billion. I think we can. Anyone from California? No. Okay, I was going to say that, but yeah, I always try to make sure I'm not offending anyone from the states. Yeah,
Well, but it's
that's another thing.
to Mexico as well.
Yeah, well, that could be it too. I didn't think of that one. 2.1 billion over in California. Florida is not surprising, right? Like, it's a lot of retirees there, and we're going to talk about why that's important. I always like Virginia is number 11 with 265 million. That's always shocking to me that we're pretty high. When you got the California, the Texas, the New Yorks, like we almost expect that to be the case, and that is not Washington D.C. That's corner of the country there. So fraud by age, this should not be shocking to you at all. So 60 plus, 3.4 billion. Look, I'm going to preface this. DOJ, Department of Justice, instituted an elder initiative. It's trying to ensure that the elderly, which is a very vulnerable population, that the FBI and other federal agencies are doing presentations like this. I actually do these to retirement homes and healthcare facilities, places where more of the elderly population will be. And I give those presentations because this is the data that we're seeing. So DOJ says elderly is over 60. Now, don't throw anything at me, right? That's what DOJ said. Here's a reason why this is so important. The generation. When you think of the different generations, 60 plus per psychology reports, research, more trust in generation. I think we mentioned before, hey, cashier check. Check looks good, shake your hand, done deal, right? It's little, this 60 plus also are more likely to be retired. Have a nice chunk of money, savings account, pension, more money to go after. So if I'm a criminal, why would I target someone under 20? Where are they going to send me their allowance? But this 60 plus, your social security card number, you have a probably really good credit score as well. And 60 plus, very sad, but we're talking about 80, 90. I'm getting higher now. It's a good chance that you're some type of dementia, or you're not all the way there, right? You're kind of losing your facilities a little bit. And they know that. It sounds very sad, but they know if I go after 60 plus, more than 70, 80, 90, when we're talking about, that's why they went after former director Webster. He was over 90 years old. They think they have a better chance of taking your money, and you have more money to take.
And we didn't grow up in a digital world like they did.
Ooh, yeah. You don't know to look at these emails. You don't know about phishing.
My kids come home from school, Dad needs to buy us a computer. I'm like, well, go tell Dad.
If you didn't grow up with computers, it's going to be hard to track these schemes. And as technology keeps advancing, you can't. But you look at other, my kids, they can grab iPads and they're just doing things.
The little ones in the grocery stores, they're in the cart.
They know what they're doing.
Learning.
They're learning. They're staying up with they're using AI, right? Anyone use AI here?
I no longer have a speaker on my phone, so I can verbalize my text. I showed Wes, and that speaker is now AI.
AI.
And I don't understand. Where's my speaker?
Chat GPT, all these different things. AI is like, I saw heads spinning when I said Chat GPT. Artificial intelligence. Yeah, so it's a lot of the technological advances that the 60 plus category they're just not going to, they just didn't grow up with it. So it's very hard for them to do that. Almost there, the investment fraud, you will see how it's growing over the years. You'll see investment rising. In 2023, we saw before over 4.5 billion, and each year it keeps getting higher. And the little red bar there will be the crypto investment. Crypto keeps going higher and higher as well. And this number so far, we're going to surpass this number, and crypto is probably going to take over the traditional methods of payments.
Are there certain cryptos that are more likely to be happening?
We'll talk after this, because there's so many cryptos.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, virtual currency.
Some are more liable to be
Absolutely.
hackable.
They are. And there's actually a report on that at ic3.gov. I'm going to point you all to that at the end of this. Go to ic3.gov. They have all of these reports of all the scams and the details, the different crypto platforms that are more likely to be fraudulent based on the data they're receiving. when the FBI is giving you this information, it's all based on data driven. It's not personal opinions. Everything I say here is based on what we've seen over the years and collected. And we're actually live information we're collecting. This is as of December 2023, so not live. So this is our recovery asset team. This is what I talked about in the beginning, the rat success. So there were 3,008 incidents, $758 million of losses that were reported, and that were actually not reported, but fit in the category of us being able to use the rat tool on it. Because remember, they're only for domestic transactions. If it goes international, this cannot be used. So again, created in 2018, it was the ability for the IC3 or the FBI to reach out to financial institution. We have this thing called Financial Privacy Act, right? So it's a lot of things that go into it, but they're able to formalize these communications with them, and anything with transfer domestic accounts, they were able to freeze since 2018, $538 million. So put that in perspective. The people who lost 500, who are in that category, they were able to get their money back. It's because they reported it right away. IC3 had information on it, on that fraud scheme, and was able to classify that based on, I don't know how they do it, as potential fraud and reach out to a respective financial institution. All right, really quick fraud example, and I apologize, it's going to be hard to see because this presentation does not have the red circles I put around it. Yeah, so FedEx, right? So this one is really tough, the FedEx. You get like an email like, hey, you got a package, we try to deliver it to you. And it's like, for each of us, it's like, wow, who tried to send me a package? Like, I want to know, right? Even if you weren't expecting it, maybe, yes. So you're just looking, so you click schedule new delivery. I usually would have the circles here. I apologize. I'm going to try to point this number here, this tracking number. Just go to the FedEx website and enter the tracking number. It's going to say it doesn't exist, right? So things like that, it's just little hacks. So the easiest way is, oh man, schedule new delivery. You click in there, it's going to ask for information. Once you start entering information because you really want this package, remember those emotions we're paying on? Curiosity. Yeah, you're cooked at that point. So you get an email. Yeah, you get an email. You get a text too. Just one extra layer of protection. We talked about this. One extra layer of protection. Just go to the official FedEx website and type in the tracking number. And it's going to show that this did not exist. And it will show an attempt of a delivery of, you all been under tracking, so I don't even explain it to you. Claim your tax refund online. We identified an error in the calculation of your tax from last payment. If you just read this makes no sense. Being a government employee, efficiency is not the way. No. The IRS is not going to reach out to you to ask to give you money back, right? And the way to do it is to create an e-refund account so we can get it to you the fastest way we can in an electronic format. Doesn't make sense. Not going to happen. You will get an official notice in the mail that's going to tell you that this happened. You owe you some. They refund money sometime. They do. You get but
last year, they automatically refunded it.
They did. You didn't have to do anything. Thank you. Yeah. So they're not old. But you're not going to have to. So did you have to create an e-refund account? No. You just get it in the mail, right?
They've already got your banking account information, so they would automatically deposit it, like they do.
Fraud. And if you don't believe it, I'm going to repeat this several times. Just stop what you're doing. Call the IRS. Now, you may be on hold for a long time, but just call them, right? And just call. The point of this is just stop what you're doing, find a legitimate number, legitimate website, and call. Or enter your information in a legitimate website. Your Chase Bank portal, your Wells Fargo portal. Don't click on links. I even tell, when I call and say I'm the FBI, and when people don't believe me, I'm going to hang up right now. You go to Google or whatever search platform you use, put in FBI Richmond, find the phone number on the website for FBI Richmond, call my office, and ask them to transfer you to me on my cell phone. So if you do those methods, I'm not going to give you, they always say, what's the number I can call you back? Find a number yourself. Don't listen to my number. And once they do all that, then they believe that I'm an FBI agent because they found a legitimate FBI number, they called the real FBI, and they transferred them to me.
Because what FBI guy is gonna call you on your cell phone or your landline if you got one? And most of us, who's
Somebody that's
say,
looking for you.
Yeah,
You're full of baloney, so I'm Santa Claus.
absolutely.
And then
Yeah.
they come.
So we call sometime to schedule interviews with you. Like, hey, we'd like to come out and schedule an interview. I get, people hang up on me because they don't believe me. But like I said earlier, I smile from being a fraud person. I'm like, yes, that person hung up on me. Like, they did great. Now I got to drive 2 hours out to this area and knock on their door. But I'd rather them do that than to take a phone call from someone who's not an FBI agent and actually
Yeah.
talk to them. So it actually helps. Dropbox, you'll see stuff like this. Hey, you got a document. We try to send it to you due to large file. We can't get it, right? Please click here so you can view the document. So are you expecting a document?
No.
If you are, then whoever you were expecting it from, call that person and tell them that I haven't seen a document. If you're not expecting one, remember, this is that curiosity thing. Huh, who's sending me something? And you click. Don't click.
Dropbox is what I'd add.
What is Dropbox? Well, if you don't know what it is, then that's a no-brainer. Just delete, right? Just delete. But don't click on links. If you don't remember anything else, stop, call the legitimate company, and don't click on links.
I just throw it away, and if it's really
Yeah,
something,
delete it.
They'll call back.
or
If it's really,
call back.
yes, and they'll call you and say, hey, we tried to send you something. Then hang up, right? We're going to play this game, right, until I really realize who you are. Oh, sorry. This is the Microsoft account password change. Your password is changed. This is a really tough one because, how do you know it's not the Microsoft account
How
team?
would they know our password changed if we didn't change it?
Well, how would they know what your email was?
Well, if it's a Microsoft and they're reaching out to you, to your Microsoft account,
If you
Your
change your password, you're gonna get an email from them that says, was this really you? You changed your password.
you changed your password. Yeah. So,
And if you didn't, please call us.
oh yeah. So if you were to, another tip you're going to get here is this support@msupdate.net is not a real email address. So again, I'm going to have a slide with this, but another tip, remember, legitimate website to verify it's the person. Don't click on links. Check your email addresses, the sender. It's just a simple search, google.com, put in support@msupdate.net. You go there and you will see a bunch of threads saying this is fraud. This is a scam. Don't answer this email. Like, people are going to have a lot of the information there. If the first thing that comes up is not the Microsoft company and it's on their website, it shows this as the way to contact them, then that is not their email address. And if you really believe that this is real, I think you guys already know what I'm going to say. Go to the Microsoft website, contact them, and ask them, is there something wrong with my account? The actual Microsoft. And then they'll, well, no, there's nothing wrong here. Okay. Again, the world we live in, you got to go through these extra steps. But Chase Bank, this is a good one. Do you recognize all these transactions? So they're letting you know there was unusual activity in your account. This seems very real.
Legit, yeah.
Yes, like, wow, there's really activity on my account. No, I didn't go to Best Buy or Cash App. I didn't do any of these things.
In another state.
Not me. Remember, I don't want to go through it again, but I will. Legitimate website. Go to your Chase Bank portal, right? Your app. If you don't use an app, log on to your official account, whatever way you look at your statements, and look to see if these transactions actually appear there. If they don't appear there, then this is fraud. It's that extra step of just figuring out, verifying if this is correct or not. Now, if you go to your actual statement and you do see a Cash App of $224.49, then you call the bank and say, hey, this is, but never follow the link there. Now, if that's real and you see it on your statement, then you know that's a legitimate email. But I still would not follow the link. I'll just go through my official way of calling the bank and reporting it. But you always just want to verify that whatever these people are telling me, these imposters, is it real? Because what you don't want to do is sit on something that is, real and just ignore it. And that's how you get like debt collection or something, because you're like, I didn't pay the bill because I thought it was fraud.
Well, I had something interesting happen at my house on January January 1st, before I had coffee, I got a text message that said, "We've detected fraud on your account." It was from one of the banks that my credit card is on. So I called them, and yes, they had weirdo things from some fish company in California and what have you. So we got rid of all that, and they sent me a new card. Got the new card, I don't know, probably several weeks later, and as soon as I got it, it happened again. So I called them again, and they said, I said, "How could all this happen?" I finally got a hold of somebody that could help, and he said, "Well, let's take a look what else might be on there." And there was something set up on there for Chick-fil-A for like an auto, to use it over and over again.
Yeah.
Like
Oh.
a auto charge
Yes,
kind of
yes,
thing.
yes.
Like, you have like auto payments for your trash. and
Yes,
stuff like that.
yes.
And they told me that sometimes if they started off with having your first card, when the second card comes,
Oh.
auto payment
I had
shows
the
up,
same
and then
thing.
they
Yes.
your number for the second one. I'm now on my third card with these people.
But it's with MasterCard. MasterCard allows a transfer from one to the next
Is
for
what
those
we've
kind of
heard.
charges.
I don't know.
But Visa does not, I'm told.
Well, I
Huh.
have a
Heard.
piece of that's not true.
That's
'Cause
not
I-
true.
Interesting.
As she's explaining this, I had the same issue.
That happened with
Because-
two of my cards. I only have
Yeah.
2 cards.
Let's have a little powwow after, because I want to know about this. I didn't know about the difference
There's
between.
something that the banks allow them, and mine was a Bank of America, Visa, and it has to do with if you have like, mine was like a monthly payment towards Dish TV or something.
Yes, yes.
And when I had a credit card fraud, so they ended that card, gave me a new card, the Dish people were able to get access to that new.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, mine was American Airlines City card.
Yeah.
I didn't want to lose my points. My airline-
No, you don't want that. No, yeah. That's
Yeah. So
let's talk offline. So, because I do want to know more about that, because that's actually relevant to something I'm thinking of.
Confidentiality,
Okay.
that they should be getting that.
They should, yeah.
And I didn't give it to them, and that's where I got it.
No, I can see that being a problem. So that everyone gets to the end really fast, we'll blow through this as fast as we can, but make sure you get the information. SunTrust, again, very straightforward. If you look at, I apologize, I don't have it. You look at the email up there,
Yeah.
the SunTrust is missing an R, so it's at suntus.com, which,
Read it in a hurry, you don't see it.
oh man, that goes really fast. Yeah, and this is an actual, scam email that will go out. It'll be suntus.com. And if you notice here, just the way things are written, SunTrust, again, is not capitalized the way it should be. Everywhere else you see SunTrust, it's not capitalized there. It's just little things that a company, well, no longer SunTrust, but a reputable bank will not make these type of errors in an email. It just will not happen. Even the way this is written, we appreciate your business, are committed to helping you reach your financial goals. Call is not capitalized. First letter in the sentence, not capitalized. Call us at 800. It just seems like this isn't. So
Yeah, punctuation and spelling.
For helpful products.
why would
bank.
why would a bank put out an email like this? Doesn't make sense.
Well, why do they do that if they know that? Is it because they get less of a sentence, or you can't touch them because of that?
Oh no, a lot of this is some of these people putting this together are English is not their first language.
Yeah.
So they're throwing this stuff together the best way they can. They're Googling, they're using translation apps, and they're trying their best to get their grammar. They don't speak English. Some of them don't speak English.
And you have to understand, I've done a lot of European traveling, and the Europeans do not speak the same way we do. Their English is very
Well, look
different.
at number 2, sign on to online.
Yeah, they're trying their best. They worked hard on this. They worked really hard just trying to get it together. So grammar, you're going to see in another slide, is another red flag. We have a lot of grammatical errors. Netflix, this is a good one. Again, some of us have Netflix. The high deer,
I got that today, and I think it was a scam.
it probably is. Update your account. Sorry, this is a little fuzzy. If you just read it, your friends at Netflix, some of this but people kind of bite on this stuff. Your account is on hold. What does it mean? Is it locked? Is it canceled? Like on hold?
My email sent today, you have to update your account now. It's time to update your Netflix account. So I clicked on it. All right, it said that-
Everyone duck,
it didn't
duck.
say that at the beginning.
Yeah.
It said something, I'm thinking,
Something else.
so I clicked on it, and I read what it was gonna be about, and I thought, no, I'm not deleting
Good, good.
But, I mean, that was today, this morning I got that.
These things are still happening.
How about the thing last week that occurred where there was a backdoor entry into worldwide software? Did you hear about that?
I did not, no.
Oh, there's a German software engineer that figured out that 65% of the software utilized in the whole world has the same basic format.
You can't make this stuff up.
Through the back door to get into this
Oh, my goodness.
software, and he's a very smart German software engineer, and he saw it was coming through China. You didn't hear about this?
No, I did not. I will research it after
And
this because that seems good.
They closed it on down. They've been trying to get a back door through the software that they can shut down everything in the entire world. The whole 65%, like all the power plants, everything.
See, when I mentioned in the beginning,
And 65% of the world's software
sure,
is vulnerable to this. I thought, my gosh, nothing's safe.
nothing's safe. It seems very scary, but
I mean,
that's
and
the world
guy
we're in.
The guy's a genius, and he didn't want anybody knowing his name because
Sure.
he found this.
Right.
He goes, all I am is a software engineer, but I found this back door that China's been digging into for the last 2 years.
Where'd you find that information?
I heard that.
I just read it online, I go, what?
Scary stuff.
It's verifiable.
Scary stuff. All right, really fast, how to protect yourself, right? A lot of this I talked about throughout the presentation, so this will not be surprising to you. So be suspicious, right? Any calls from government agencies asking for money, government agencies,
How about
they're not
the
going to ask you for
police
money.
Benevolent fund.
Oh, that's a good one too. Give to your police. No. Be suspicious. I'm going to go a step ahead and just be suspicious of everything. Now, I know everyone's going to be walking out here just like, oh, but you have to be suspicious of everything these days. If it's coming over the internet, email, somewhere where you don't know. So if I tell you I'm going to email you and within 10 minutes you get an email from me from my email address, then I'm not saying be suspicious that way. But if you're not expecting something, it's unsolicited emails. Those are things just be very suspicious about. Don't trust your caller ID. We talked about spoofing. I can make it look like Wells Fargo is calling right now, and you will answer it, and you will think you're talking to Wells Fargo. Never pay with a gift card. I don't have to get into that. Wire transfer or cryptocurrency. Just don't pay money to anyone that you do not know or you have never met them before. I like it too, right?
Send it to people.
Check with the real agency, person, or company. We talked about that a lot. I think I repeated myself a lot. Check with the real person. Check. If you can't get a hold of them, wait until you do. You release those funds, you're finished. Keep your system software updated. Keep strong, passwords, antivirus programs. It's just very simple. Virus protection works. Try those things. Create strong, unique passwords for each account. This is easy. I know you just want to use the same email or same password for every account. Or your password is your pet's name, and we can find that on social media because you post pictures of your pet and you refer to them by their name. Or the scammer hits the forgot my password, and the first question is, what is your pet's name? And I just checked your Facebook account, and whatever the name is, I just put it in there. Done. Now I change the password, and I lock you out of your account. So you just want to create strong passwords and passphrases. That's what I mean by the questions. So a good rule of thumb, I'm not telling you to do this, but I'm telling you to lie. But if you create a question that it's a fake answer to, like even if I know a lot about you, what was your first car? I'm going to guess he's, 45 years old. That was a popular car at the time. Honda Civic. And I'm just going to put it in there. I got multiple attempts. Just create something that doesn't make sense. What's my pet's name? I don't have a pet, but that would be my question. There's not a Facebook picture out there with me and a pet. It's going to be a name that only I know. So just, if you want to be creative with it, just create a question without a real answer.
How often would you change your passwords?
Yeah, I do it quite frequently because, I don't know. Yeah, just because what I see.
Antivirus programs do work.
They do work. They do work with the different viruses that comes in. They will block certain things from coming in. like spam, things like that. So you want to make sure you keep that stuff updated. And like, I'm not going to endorse products, but something that's on the shelf, I'll just leave it at that. Do not open any attachments unless you're expecting to file, document, or invoice, and you have verified the sender's email. I think I talked about that before. Don't click on things, and just verify before you pay anything. If you're not expecting it, just wait until they call you back. Protect your connections. This is very important when connecting to public Wi-Fi. Everyone's offering free Wi-Fi. The coffee shops, the airports, plugging your phone into the airport connection, the USB, you put your phone there because you need a little charge there. Please don't do that. You got to be mindful that you're connecting to open Wi-Fi with no password. That means the bad guy or girl could be sitting right in the corner of the coffee shop, and every time someone connects, they're connecting too. And they're stealing your information because you're connecting to this Wi-Fi. When you're at hotels, coffee shops, airports, public library, any public location. So if you're in a hotel and it's okay, I was just at a hotel traveling and I'm on the open Wi-Fi there, I'm just there like browsing the internet. Like there's no harm, no foul. But if I'm going to make transfers from my bank account or do anything else there, I don't do it there. Like don't do it on the open Wi-Fi. So if I know it's tough, it's tempting, just use your cell phone connection that you have, or you can, I know this is like high speed, but hotspot from your cell phone and use your cell phone's internet connection on your computer. Last thing, just examine the email addresses. Again, we talked about all this, do not click. I wanted everything to be in one spot, so I said it during the presentation, but if you see these slides afterwards, everything's just here for you to see. Remember, demand money or personal information from you, that's a red flag. Threaten to arrest you, deport you, punish you, red flag. Remember, government agencies will not do that. Awards, grants, sweepstakes, or lotteries. If you did not play any lottery or anything, you didn't win. Pay by gift card, crypto, money transfer, or cash. Again, that seems weird, but you got to think about the context. If they're telling you to pay by crypto, and you're buying this antique car that you just saw online, then that's not going to work.
We have a question.
Yes.
Is Apple iCloud keychain safe for your password?
Oh, I don't use it. I'm not sure.
So it's basically if your computer saves your
Yes.
passwords for you.
Yes.
Apple iCloud keychain.
So I will give, this was actually a documentary I was watching. Not a documentary, it was a news report where an individual will steal your iPhone. And once he steals your iPhone and gets into your iPhone, he has everything that you have stored on your iPhone. So whether you're using your iCloud or anything that you have access to that your Apple ID is attached to, I'm assuming that will be attached to your Apple ID. Bad people, I say bad guys, bad girls, they have access to that information now. So I am not a fan of putting all of my information in one location. And I don't want to go into details how this person stole the iPhone and changed the password. If you Google it afterwards, the criminal actually is going to tell you how he did it. And, he was very good at it. But the answer to that question, I can't give advice on which company to use, but putting everything in one centralized location, if you lose access to that, it's just more risk that someone will have access to all of your information. So I'm not advising to do it. I'm not advising not to do it. Whatever is convenient for you, you take the calculated risk. But for me, just common sense, right? Like even like diversification, you want to, separate and don't put all your eggs in one basket. Yes, did that hopefully that answered the question.
Facial
Yes.
recognition on your iPhone or
Yeah.
whatever, is that effective or can it be?
I'm not sure about that. I use it. It's shooting lasers to your face. I don't know what that's going to do for me long term. Fingerprints, all that biometric stuff it seems like is very helpful, very safe. I can say I tried to put it to other people's faces and it doesn't work, but it is a good way to. It is a good mechanism. I can only say I use it.
Of the person.
It won't pick up on photo.
We were told it would, so.
I tried. I saw it in a movie, and I'm like, that's I'm going to try that. It didn't work. Maybe it will. Again, I can't speak to Apple's product. I don't know if I'm not going to advise you that that's the best way to protect your phone, I don't know. But it is a deterrence, and it is one of the options for a deterrence. You choose whichever you want, whether it's a thumbprint, face, have something. Don't just have nothing, right? Where, you go into your phone and there's like no security, no facial. Like that is a really bad thing because you don't like doing this each time. You don't like lasers shooting at your face. You don't like thumbprints. So I'm just going to go with nothing. That's really bad. Yes.
Oh, were you gonna say something?
No. This floor is yours.
With Apple, someone told me yesterday, that she had one very complex, we were talking about how many different, keywords we had to look up things, we couldn't remember them all, or we put them in, and this doctor, that doctor, whatever. And she said, I just have one Apple, very complex thing for everything.
Huh.
And I thought, that sounds safe to me. But have you heard of that?
So you're saying
She said that.
you know someone who has one Apple complex password for everything? And I've seen whether it's Apple or other companies, they have these recommended passwords, and it's like the most secure, and it's usually like 50 characters long. Like, yeah, I will never remember that.
No.
And this is like an algorithm they use where there's a X amount of percentage that this will be cracked or will not be cracked. Generally, I don't recommend one password for anything. Like
I didn't say anything, but I was like,
that's just
I wouldn't remember it the second of all.
right.
What, or if you wrote it down somewhere, I wouldn't want one thing for everything.
Yeah, it's pretty tough. Again, not giving advice on like how to do that. You got to calculate at risk, right? If you can't remember all these passwords and this is a very strong password you're going to use for everything, that's a risk that you assume. And I don't know what your regular lifestyle is or that person's regular lifestyle is. Maybe they're not vulnerable to people, maybe not using the internet a lot. I'm not sure. But I'm just not a fan of just using one thing for everything. Like it's just, your risks go up. Again, we can only mitigate the risk. You can't eliminate risk. Like that's with anything in life. We know that. But it just brings your risk a little higher when you have one password for everything, regardless of how complex it is. So that's...
And I was asked that the same day, a doctor's office, and they fill out a new form, and the first time I'd been there, they wanted my social security number, and I said, I don't think I want to do that. So I went up there and I said, I don't really want to give it to you. And he said, that's fine. But it was a question.
You're not required to, in
Yes.
a doctor's office.
Yeah, I learned that too.
Yeah.
We don't have to have.
Why
it.
would they
Just
even
on there.
want it?
Right, and
you
I
can
thought,
say no.
and my husband said, oh no, just give me the last four numbers. I said,
We're
I
good.
don't want to
This
do
is
that either. I'm going up, say, I don't feel comfortable.
Let's
with
go ahead
this."
and hold the comments and questions till the end so that Sarah
Oh,
can
okay.
get through, and then he'll stick around afterwards if anybody wants to.
I will stick around, I promise. Don't trust caller ID, scammers. We talked about this. Remember, pressure, urgency, secrecy. We talked about that, right? Most likely fraud. Hang up and call a legitimate number. If it is too good to be true, then it is, right? Like you get this once in a lifetime opportunity. All these great things that happen. You hit the lottery. Things like that just don't happen. People don't beg you to give you money. Like it just doesn't work that way. Reporting fraud. Remember, emergency, call 911. Like FBI, we're not first responders. So if your life is threatened in any way, call 911. This is not a threatening crime. So if you lost money, it's not a threat. Like you're not physical harm. So you can call 911 if you want. But if someone calls and threatens to harm you in any way, 911. Next, you want to do ic3.gov. You go to the website. Great information. You can report fraud there. You can get information to all the data that I have here, and you can get all the public service announcements. Even 6 months, 8 months from now, that information is going to change. So obviously I can't be here, every month, but you can go to ic3.gov and you can see the updated trends and things to be on the lookout for. Same thing with the FTC, Federal Trade Commission. You go to their website, they're going to have the same information, and they're going to have very similar format on how they collect the data as well. And they're going to have tips for you, what to be on the lookout for. They'll have screenshots of different techniques. So my job is to get in front of as many people as possible to spread this message, to point you to these websites, and to give this information so that you can be aware of this. We can't prosecute our way out of this. We can't arrest our way out of this. This is the best method to stop the cyber threat, which is proactive education. This is the only way we can do it. There are not enough police officers, not enough prosecutors to get through with this. And obviously the FBI Richmond office, that's our phone number, but you're not gonna trust that, right? You're gonna go to google.com and put in FBI Richmond.
I know that's the right number.
Okay, all right. That was a quiz. I don't want you to go ahead and trust me with that information. Any questions? Well, we asked a lot of questions, but we can wrap it up, and then I'll stick around unofficially or informally.
Great. I think we could be here. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
We could obviously do probably a whole day seminar on this and not get through it, but thank you, Cedric, for being here. Thanks, everybody, for attending.
Thank you.
Like I said, he'll hang out afterwards for one-on-one questions. And